Yo, Jay.
Now you had to know I was going to be dancing while you played the music.
Okay, well, welcome to Fan for Racing Radio. I am Fan for Racing Sharon, and joining me today is Jay Huseman. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about. Tempers are flaring, records are falling, and lines are getting crossed. This is Hot Topic Sound Off for tonight. Did Kyle Busch just send a message to the entire next generation of NASCAR drivers? After breaking the record with his 9th Truck Series win at EchoPark Speedway, he didn't celebrate very quietly. Instead, after he was wrecked out of the Cup Series race, he said something that lit up the airways. Kids these days. Now, that's not just frustration, that's a statement. And this weekend, it has everything. We had a broken record, an expected winner upset, Shane van Gisbergen continuing to figure out these ovals, and Hurricane Hocevar causing chaos across at least 2 series, not all 3. But let's start with the biggest name in the sports. Kyle Busch now has 9 Truck Series wins at EchoPark Speedway. It was his 3rd straight victory there and 9th overall. That's not just a good run, that's dominance. No matter what era we're in, no matter who the young guns are, Busch keeps stacking up the wins. You can love him or hate him, but when it comes to closing out races, he's still one of the best in the business. So let's talk about Kyle Busch at EchoPark.
It is, and we talked about it in the preview as we did with Austin Hill in the O'Reilly Auto Parts. When it comes to Atlanta and the Truck Series, no matter what the name of the title sponsor is, Kyle Busch has the right to say, this is my house. I mean, and he proves it. He backs it up. Did it take a little bit of help, a push, a wingman, as he called it? Yes, but that's part of super speedway racing. You know, he was still in that position. He got shuffled out a couple times and came back and made some moves on his own where even the announcers were like, oh, that's never going to work. Oh, my gosh, that worked. Oh, my gosh, that's Kyle Busch doing Kyle Busch things. You know, yes. I mean, he showed why he's got 9 victories and getting his 3rd in a row. It was a great race. You thought maybe he was going to get beat. It has happened, but doggone. I mean, he showed why.
He definitely did show why. And I've got some stats here for him and his starts across all 3 series. But let's start with the Craftsman Truck Series. As far as the Craftsman Truck Series is concerned, he has, he has 181 starts, 68 wins. That's the all-time most in the series. 121 top 5s and 145 top 10s. That's dominance.
And just when you look at the Truck Series in general, you're right, of what history making he has made. He would go into the Hall of Fame based on his Truck Series stats alone, if you ask me. If only Kyle could do this in Cup. And we got All Sports All Day is with us.
All Sports All Day is here. That's wonderful. Okay. Hi, All Sports All Day. Let's put up your comment here. If only Kyle could do this in Cup. Yes, we miss those days. He was very good in Cup. But yeah, he's got some outstanding stats. When you think about overall or what he's done combined in all 3 national series, it's 233 across Cup, O'Reilly, and the Truck Series. That's a NASCAR record. He's the only driver with 60-plus wins in each of NASCAR's top 3 national series. And to break that down, in the NASCAR Cup Series, he's got over 700 Cup Series starts, and he reached that milestone in 2024, so there's a whole bunch after that. And then wins, he's got 63 Cup wins. That's 9th all-time on the Cup's wins list, and the most among active drivers. He's got 254 top 5s, 392 top 10s, multiple Cup poles, including early ones, exact modern total varies by source. He's got 2 championships in 2015 and 19, and he's got 19 consecutive seasons with at least 1 Cup win. That's an all-time record.
Well, and with what All Sports All Day said, and he's got here, I'm worried that his rut in the ladder of his Cup career may cloud an immaculate career. Every driver goes through that. Understand that. And this transition over to RCR, I had huge hopes. The way he started out with RCR didn't pan out, but we've seen good things. Maybe not the finishes, but you saw the pole at Daytona, good run, was having a good run here at Atlanta. When you take a look at who he is on the Cup side, well, he just head and shoulders above everybody in the Truck Series. We'll set that aside. On the Cup side, take away Jimmie Johnson, guys like Kyle Busch with 2 championships, in recent history, that's as dominant as we've seen anybody other than Jimmie Johnson, who went on his 5 in a row. So honestly, he is one of the top guys. We just don't see what we saw outside of Jimmie Johnson.
Well, you're right. We just don't. I don't want to leave out what he's done in the O'Reilly Auto Series either, though.
Right. Absolutely not.
He's got over 350 starts. He's got 102 wins. Again, all-time most in the series. 226 top 5s, 267 top 10s, and 1 championship that goes back to 2009. And some other notables. He's got the most wins in a single season in all series, 24, and that was in 2010, and that was a modern era record. He's also the youngest Cup pole winner ever at California Speedway in 2005, and I believe they mean Fontana. I could be wrong about that, but multiple wins in marquee tracks, races like the Brickyard 400, the Coca-Cola 600, and the Southern 500. The only one that's missing is the Daytona 500. But Kyle Busch has a phenomenal career in NASCAR.
But yeah, looking at his trucks, obviously we know what it is there. One of the things that ties into it, and I mentioned it, he called out his wingman, Carson Hocevar, and we're going to talk about him in every series and then kind of a overall. The one hot topic I had here was what they called the adverse conditions time limit. And I know we've seen this when it's approaching darkness and they don't have lights. I was not happy with the fact that they were doing it based on the start of another race. I get they were in a logistics jam, and I'm just going to come from my side of it. To me, they should have let the trucks run. Then, if need be, put that adverse condition on the Xfinity at the end of their race, because you don't know. And I get it. NASCAR has a lot to do, and they had to work around some things. But no, as a fan, I kind of felt like the Truck Series got told, hey, you're not as important. That's how I felt, and I didn't agree with that.
I kind of want to stay with Kyle Busch for just a minute, because that 9th victory at EchoPark Speedway is a record-breaking event, okay? We will come back to that, Jay. I want to make sure that we do cover that. But he's pretty dominant. We've already established that with all of his stats. But Busch keeps stacking up wins, and you can love him or hate him, but when it comes to closing out races, he's still one of the best in the business, like we mentioned. And that's what makes what happens next really exciting. But can anybody beat Kyle Busch?
There too, yes, absolutely, because
the Truck Series.
There was obviously the situation of a couple different pushes or passes, that he wouldn't have won that race. But again, you don't luck into these just because it's a super speedway and anybody can win it. You don't luck into them. You got to be in the right position and put yourself in the right position. As we see on the bad side of, you can put yourself in the wrong position, whereas he puts himself in the right position. So yeah, you can't argue, like you said, love him or hate him, you can't argue the talent. I mean, that you don't luck into 9 victories and 3 in a row and that kind of dominance. That is not lucking into that. You know,
And
at the
that was
time,
his 68th win in the Truck Series too.
and he's done it for different organizations. He referenced it because he talked about of not really thinking that it was him, it was the truck back when he drove for Billy Ballou, because that was his home track for Billy Ballou. You know, so he's done it with his own organization now, Aspire Motorsports, which is a continuation but a new organization. So again, it shows his talent of whoever he's riding with or for. You know, the talent of him is still the same.
Yeah, I think he's got 3 tracks where he has 9 wins now, I think. And this Atlanta is just the most recent notch on his belt with that regard. And I just don't, we know when Kyle Busch is in the race that he's likely going to be the guy that's going to win.
Yeah, we were surprised. I don't remember if it was last year or the year before of his 5, I think it was 5 races he could do in the Truck Series, that he actually only won 1 of them. And that was a surprise because in years past, when he did his 5 starts, he went 4 for 5 or 5 for 5, you know, but that also speaks to the competition level of everybody stepping up, at least making it a little more challenging. I know we didn't necessarily see that, but again, there was good competition. It wasn't a gimme where he led, you know, all the laps. There were some battles, and it took that talent and bold moves, good quality bold moves. We'll get into that and some other hot topics. A bold move don't always equate to good.
And I would say a little bit of help from your sometimes friend, like Carson Hocevar. That's another love him or hate him kind of driver, and we'll talk more about him later. But that was a big, big help from Carson Hocevar to push him into the lead at the end of that race.
It was, and you saw it. And there again, Kyle acknowledged that. You know, that's one of those, when I look at Kyle, and there are moments where I've not liked what Kyle Busch did, said, acted, whatever. But that was one where you got to respect him. I mean, he acknowledged that. That was one of his first statements. Hey, I had a wingman, and it was, and he even said early in the race, he was a little unsure of him. You know, I don't know. I was trying to recall what happened early in the race, but he said he was a little unsure of him to begin with. But as they got settled in, and I saw an interview with Hocevar, said he did have a little bit of an issue with his truck. So he felt like the best thing he could do was help the teammate, you know, and you got to respect that as a driver as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's more to come on Carson Hocevar. Okay, Jay, let's go ahead and talk about your subject now.
All right. Yeah. Again, the adverse condition, again, weather delayed the start of the truck race. They were up against the time of when they were going to supposed to start the Xfinity, or I'm sorry, O'Reilly Auto Parts race on the CW network. I wish I had a better answer, because I know that logistic-wise and partner-wise, NASCAR's got a plate full and they got to do something. I just was not a fan of them automatically making the decision to cut the truck race with this adverse conditions time limit. Normally, it is used when they know it's going to get dark enough and they don't have lights. They say, okay, at this time, white's coming out, next lap is checkered, and that's how it's going to finish. Again, not a fan of that, but I get it. Here, I feel like they had some other options to work with. Why they picked the Truck Series over the Xfinity. And that's where I was saying, let the Truck Series run organically, start the O'Reilly Auto Parts, and if that one needs it, do it then, because if they'd have both run green flag, you wouldn't have had to cut either one. So I feel like maybe they tried to control something before they had to.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I can't really speak to it as well as you can, though, because in full disclosure, I was not able to watch the race. I have some travel plans again this weekend. But they had to cut it short. I get that. And the adverse conditions had to do with the rain that they had earlier, which is probably why they couldn't start the race early, is the way I took it. And then
Yeah,
the
I think
fact that
it was an hour delay just to get the track ready and raceable again.
Right. And then on the other side of it, they had to be concerned about when the O'Reilly series race was going to start. So I can kind of see NASCAR's side of it. And again, I'm on the outside looking in. I didn't watch the race, but I thought they were between a rock and a hard place there.
Oh, you're right, All Sports All Day. If you pull up his latest comment. Oh, now all right. He's going to set me off. Go ahead, Sharon. I got to control my emotions now.
Well, Riley could have run late because obviously Atlanta has lights. I think it had to do with the broadcast in CW. It was dumb. I didn't like it. Okay, so it had more to do with the broadcast schedule.
Oh, that makes me even madder because if the O'Reilly, you're right. I thought they said they couldn't run the O'Reilly, but Atlanta does have lights. Yes, I'm very upset now, and I'm going to just say I'm very upset. Now, I will say this. Sharon, you said it. First off, they did a great job. Apparently, it was a heck of a storm that moved through. It's actually winter conditions now. If you're a wrestling fan, Monday Night Raw's in Atlanta, and they're having issues getting people and stuff in. I get that, and NASCAR does a great job of getting the track ready and being able to race and having plans. I really felt like I said, like the Truck Series was a redheaded stepchild, that they immediately went to that. And I get CW is the home network to the O'Reilly Auto Parts. That in itself is going to bug me. Mine, I don't know why it is, and I don't want to put it on the CW network. With my cable company, the CW network comes in scrambled a lot of times, so I didn't get to watch the O'Reilly Auto Parts. It's almost like they get a scrambled and they don't have the right decoder because it comes up, but it's all broken up and you can kind of see and hear. So I don't know what the issue is there. Like I said, it's not the CW network itself because there are times where it comes in nice and clear. I don't understand it. But so I think that's more with my cable company. But yeah, to give it to one network then.
Networks. Yeah.
Oh man, that's again, and I know NASCAR's in a tough position. I don't want to be in their position, but I do think they need to not pick on the Truck Series, I guess. That's how I felt, like they were picking on the Truck Series.
Well, would it have been a big deal if they would have continued to run the Truck Series on FS1 and then go ahead and start the Xfinity Series on time? Or not Xfinity, but the O'Reilly Series on time? And so that
no, because they were at the same track. They were at the same track.
Oh, you can't do that. That's true. Yeah, they can't do that at the same track. You're right. Yeah.
Like next weekend they might run.
It's really in a hard spot there.
And obviously All Sports All Day agrees that was a more important than trucks. Yeah, and as it turns out, and this is the way I look at it, and why I said they stepped in and controlled something before they needed to. They actually had only got cut 10 laps short, and I get it, that's not a lot, but obviously could have changed a whole lot. But then why not let that, if the Xfinity runs clean and green, it's not an issue whatsoever, other than apparently the start time. And I don't, giving one network or one series favor like that over the other, I think they need to look at what else they can do. I do.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that we do know is every week after the race weekend, NASCAR does sit down and say what went well, what didn't go well, what can we do differently. So hopefully they're sitting down having the same discussion of how they could maybe handle this in the future. But I know there was a lot of discussion about this.
One other thing that ties in there that I know I didn't have written down or sent to you, but somebody at Tricon Garage needs to get fired. And I'll tell you why, because Corey Heim got done with that race and said, I didn't know there was a time limit and they were going to end that race.
Yeah.
Somebody on that team dropped the ball big time.
Yeah, I did see that. Corey Heim had no idea that the end of the race was coming up. So there were definitely was a lack of communication at Tricon Garage to get that word to their driver.
And that was on that team, because we as fans knew it. The broadcast talked about it right from the get-go that we may run into that. So how he as a driver didn't know it, man, that's horrible.
Yeah, that is horrible. That is very horrible. I didn't have a lot on the O'Reilly Auto Series here on my notes. Did you have anything else, Jay?
For the trucks or for O'Reilly?
Oh, for
Are we done with the trucks?
Sorry, for trucks.
No, obviously the Hocevar, that's going to carry over. That's 1 point in his favor. Kyle Busch found him as a wingman. Some others might not as we get into the other series.
Well, it's kind of funny that Kyle Busch, appreciated him being a wingman, because it kind of ties in to our kind of common thread that's weaving through the show here tonight. Because what happened in the truck series is what makes what happened next very interesting, because after a record-breaking weekend, the story shifted. In this case, Creed upset Austin Hill for the win. And while everyone was celebrating Kyle Busch and his record-breaking victory in the truck series, the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race delivered its own shock, because I don't think many people expected that to happen. Coming into the weekend, it looked like Austin Hill was the guy. He was strong. He was consistent. He had multiple wins there, fast when it mattered. But if you're picking a favorite, Hill was probably on the top of the list. But Sheldon Creed had other plans. He didn't just luck into this one either. He stayed patient. He positioned himself. And when it was time to execute, he was able to execute. And I know that what happened in order for him to be able to execute is Ross Chastain and Austin Hill got into it. But that opened the door. That wasn't chaos. That was survival on his part. And that was capitalizing. And that's a big difference.
And there's a lot of the ones where he lost. He was on the other end of that. He should have won, and it didn't happen for one reason or another. So again, I, as a fan that truly watches the sport for what it is, he's lost some like that. So he was kind of owed maybe one. But you're right. Austin Hill did his thing. Again, it's his house when it comes to the O'Reilly Auto Parts or the drafting style tracks. And we knew that. We talked about that on the preview going in. That was your odds on money favorite. And he showed that. The deal with Chastain and him, I think both drivers weren't necessarily, Austin Hill obviously didn't win, so he was upset, but didn't say, hey, that was stupid, because he kind of felt like, yeah, I'd have probably done the same thing. Ross said it was one of those of he tried to actually help them both, make his move with Hill, and it just didn't go right, So I didn't see that one as a big, hey, we're going to have a throwdown afterwards type moment, versus some others. Again, I keep saying we'll get to some others.
Controversy there.
Yeah, there were some others, but again, was it a bad move? I don't know. And Ross Chastain in his interview actually said, the lap before, he chose not to block Hill's run because he felt like it would have caused a problem. So he said, I let it go, got in line, came back up, and when I felt the time to make a move was right, I did. It just didn't work out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Ross Chastain has matured a little bit. The fact that he didn't do it the first time, he didn't do the block. The first time he waited for the moment. But I will say the win for Creed, after 15 runner-up finishes, that guy was due. And I think it was a sentimental win. A lot of the drivers congratulated him on that win for that O'Reilly series. He was due.
And I will say this, Austin Hill, again, everybody has their own opinion of him. They were teammates at one time, and there was some issues there. But Austin Hill did go to Victory Lane, I believe it was, and congratulate
Yes.
Sheldon Creed. It's kind of like one of those, maybe not quite to the level of Dale Earnhardt winning at Daytona, but you're right. There were a lot of people that really did come and say, "Hey, this has been coming. You would deserve it."
So do you think that's a turning point for Creed?
It was due. It was time. I don't know if it's a turning point because it's one of those of, how do you say it, of once you get that first one, the rest come easy. So yeah, it kind of breaks that. Do I have to answer this question? How many more times or how long before I win? Takes that away. It's not though like I said, of it's a turning point where he's going to all of a sudden run better, because he has always run good. Obviously, with a record 15 second place finishes, he's always in contention. I think maybe a little bit, and I hate to say it, I think at RCR there was some, I don't know if animosity is the right word, but some feelings that just amongst teammates, isn't going to go well. I think he's in a good place with Sam Mayer and the Haas factory. Now they are a Chevy team again, and maybe that plays in. I don't know. But I feel like Sheldon Creed's always been a contender. He just, little bit of luck, couldn't quite close the deal.
All Sports All Day says, so happy for Creed, and Hill was my pick. I think Hill was everybody's pick.
Right.
For this race. So did Hill let the win slip away, do you think? Based on what you said before, I'm thinking that's what you're thinking. But clarify.
Yeah, again, that's one of those, and I'm sure like they all say they'll go back and look, could I have done anything differently? Be in the car in front when Chastain got into him, of how he steered off of it or expected it. I think it's just one of those racing deals of, and Chastain has every right to try and make a move. Again, I don't feel like that was an unnecessary or wild and crazy Hail Melon type move. You're paid to go for the win. So I think both of them kind of accepted that's just the way it is.
Okay. In a lot of ways, I think it feels like a momentum shift, doesn't it? With Austin Hill letting that one slip away at a track that he is so good at, his home track, and opening the door for Sheldon Creed. Is that a momentum shift there?
A little bit maybe. I think the big thing for Austin Hill, as we've seen this in the past, and it cost him a race last year, is to not let any kind of emotion carry over. You know what you and your team are capable of, just go out and do it. Things like this are going to happen, especially on a super speedway, drafting style track. Not let that affect him. That would be the ball would be in his court, if you will, as to whether or not that affects his momentum, in my opinion.
Okay. Think about the contrast that we saw this weekend just between these two races. On the one side, you got Kyle Busch, the veteran, reminding everybody that he's still the standard. And on the other side is Creed, part of that next wave, proving the new group isn't just here to participate, they're here to win.
And that is of seeing somebody different get a victory. And I do think that the Haas factory as an organization, maybe that momentum you talked about, getting back to where they were back when, albeit under the Ford banner, were winning races and contending for championships. I do see that as a little bit of a momentum swing. I know Sam Mayer had his issues early in the race, but again, I don't see that as a week in and week out thing.
Okay. Well, it's going to create a little bit of tension with some of the comments that Kyle Busch made in the Cup Series, but that's what makes NASCAR so good right now. Let me ask everybody this. Was this more about Creed stepping up or Hill missing his shot? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and we'll post it up here. I was happy for Creed too, All Sports All Day. I thought it was really great to see him come up with that victory. But let us know your thoughts about is Creed stepping up, or did Hill miss his shot? Okay, let's move along here to the next series, the NASCAR Cup Series. While some drivers are making noise with aggression, Others are making noise with progress. When Shane van Gisbergen comes to NASCAR, we all knew one thing: road courses, no problem. Ovals, that was the question. And this weekend at EchoPark, you could see something: not dominance, not perfection, but comfort. And that matters, because oval racing isn't just about speed. It's about rhythm, air management, tire conservation, reading the traffic, knowing when not to push. And SVG looks more settled. This isn't a one-race spike, I don't think, because we saw that in the Daytona race as well. It feels more like a progression curve. And if that curve keeps climbing, now you're talking about a driver who isn't just dangerous at certain tracks, he's dangerous everywhere. Imagine a version of SVG that's solid on ovals and elite on road courses. That's not a specialist, that's a contender. So here's the long-term question for SVG. Is SVG ahead of schedule or exactly where he needs to be?
He's on his way. And we saw that towards the end of last year already, that he was showing that improvement, going from 20th into the teens. Now we're seeing him go from the teens into the top 10. So yeah, especially carrying over from last year, I definitely think it is for him as a driver as well as Trackhouse as an organization. Again, they kind of looked like they spiked and then hit kind of a plateau, and I think they're starting to climb again. So.
Okay, All Sports All Day says, I don't think it really makes a difference, though. He might get a win or two more, but unfortunately, it may be too little too late on the Cup side. Is it impressive with SVG? Yes, but this is a track type Riley Earps almost won at last week. I'll go all in when I see this at intermediates, but I think we've already seen it at some intermediates as they were closing out last season, All Sports All Day. Still wonder about that RCR is supposed to run 3 cars a few times this year. Is it him? Is it full-time ride? No longer an option.
Just so you know there, Sharon, we were still kind of going with Austin Hill of whether or not his window for Cup Series is gone.
Okay.
So that's the SVG kind of thing. Well, and it is. I mean, we've seen that, honestly, and I feel like if a new driver from within RCR comes up, it's going to be Jesse Love. We got a championship out of him last year. So, yeah, I think within RCR. Oh, my bad. All Sports All Day said he was talking about Creed. Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, that would probably take. He's with the Haas factory, so they only have 1 Cup team now. Ooh, I don't know. I'd have to think on that one. Yeah, that one's even trickier there, All Sports All Day. My bad. I thought you were talking about Austin Hill.
Yeah, that's a trickier question. Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be a part-time ride, possibly. A lot like Hendrick Motorsports and Ram Trucks has their all-star ride with different drivers in that car. This year in the O'Reilly series, the Hendrick Motorsports is running full-time. No, I think he will be the first in line if Busch leaves this year.
Ooh, all right. Well, let's Sharon, if you don't mind. I think we got to go with this conversation being we got an fan interaction. I disagree with that. I really do feel like within RCR that Hill has kind of gotten pushed to the side with Jesse Love coming up. See Creed taking a Justin Allgaier career trajectory, and that may be, and he's one I got to know through the Truck Series. When I was going to tracks with Sharon for Fan for Racing was when he went finishing up in the trucks and then just starting in the O'Reilly Auto Parts. So I had high hopes for him. Hasn't quite fulfilled that, but I think we are seeing him peak. Again, there's only so many spots at the Cup level, and that would spin me off into my own hot topic. I don't want to do that, but there are only so many spots. And like I said, if he's under the Haas factory banner, and we see them only have 1 car now, that means you got to make a team change, which he's had multiple team changes already. So it might be that the O'Reilly is just where he ends up.
Okay, and that's a tough one. It could be. It could be. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out. I wish I had a crystal ball.
Right. Now on the other side to that, though, no, of Hill versus, like I said, I think I see Jesse Love come before Austin Hill.
It's gonna be Jesse Love.
You know, and I know that whole if Busch leaves this year, there are some other tie-in with that going. That goes back to the Truck Series. I know a lot of people talking about that. A's partnered with and working with the Truck Series with Spire Motorsports. Does Kyle Busch leave RCR and go to Spire Motorsports at the Cup level? Where does HendrickCars.com, the fact that that was his sponsor, does he go over and replace Bowman? I've heard that, him returning to Hendrick Motorsports. Yeah, Sharon, like you said, crystal ball there. That is so wide open. I think a lot of that depends on how well RCR, that he runs this year with RCR. And right now it started out good, hit a little bump or a wall this weekend in Atlanta, and he's not happy, but I think that'll be of how the whole year goes.
Okay. Well, the other big story in the Cup Series is Tyler Reddick becoming the 6th different driver to win the first 2 races of the season. Big news. This is a big deal for 23XI. And Michael, it gives us a showcase opportunity to showcase Michael Jordan as the team owner.
Well, and with the year they had last year, we didn't know if it had to do with the pending lawsuit, but we did not see what we expected from 23XI as a whole. Yes, Bubba Wallace got the crown jewel at the Brickyard, and now they also have the Daytona 500. But just for the back-to-back wins, and honestly, when you look at, they showed I think it was Marvin Ponch, and it goes back into the 50s or 60s, the best finish in that 3rd race to go for 3 in a row was like 3rd or 4th, 3rd through 5th, somewhere in there. When you look at Coda being the next race, and Tyler Reddick is pretty solid on road courses, that there's a high possibility he could get that 3 in a row or beat the top 3, which I believe is where Marvin Ponch finished. But you got SVG, Connor Zilich, Daniel Suarez, Ty Gibbs. It's not a given either, but it will be interesting because I do think that Tyler Reddick on a road course, he's got a shot at going 3 in a row, and that is huge for 23XI.
It certainly is. And, you know, Tyler Reddick kind of is the new kids on the block kind of thing. I know he's been around for a while, but he's starting to get his legs under him. And he's starting to really start to perform. Last year was kind of a not so good year for Tyler Reddick. So to come into this season, win the first 2 big races of the season, and then have a chance at going for 3 in a row is a pretty big deal.
And I kind of compare that to the Kyle Busch story. When he came up to RCR, had a very solid career already going with RCR in what looked to be a promising future. And 23XI signed him a year early, if you recall, and there was some commotion and whatnot there. Then he came over to 23XI, wasn't as dominant, but got some wins, and we thought he was going to be okay. Kind of hit a slump, and now we're seeing, hey, this is what he's capable of. Again, with it, and that there too. Look, as an organization, Bubba Wallace could have won both of those races as well. I know people want to rag on him. It's making it about him, but he literally could have won both of those races as well. Either one of them, a little bit of a different push or bump or whatever. So I think right now, man, you got to look at 23XI. The question is can they sustain it? I know we got the chase format this year, but they got to sustain it to get to the chase and then have it in that last 10 race stretch.
Let's make that our call to action question. Can 23XI sustain this momentum for the season and into the chase for a championship?
Well, I will say this, of the 2, and you got 3 of Riley Herbst, and Riley Herbst has to to me is kind of in that maybe make or break year, especially with the other two teams running as well as they are, needs to pick it up. But Tyler Reddick is the more well-rounded driver. We know Bubba Wallace does well on the super speedway drafting style tracks. He is decent and solid on the 1.5 miles, and we'll see there where 2311 falls. He jokingly said something about what he was going to go do at COTA and put on a show because he's not very good. You need to change that because, again, it may not be as many road courses, but they count, and you got to be solid on all tracks. And that's where I do think that between the two, it kind of favors Tyler Reddick as a more well-rounded driver. But I do think that if the cars are good and the momentum continues, don't count Bubba Wallace out.
Okay, so I wouldn't count him out either because Bubba Wallace has been performing a lot better too. He's on a progression of improvement as well. Okay, anything more you want to talk about here in the Cup Series before we move on?
Well, we got two, and I know you've been. Do we want to move into? Was it Kyle Busch's comments? Okay, go ahead.
Well, before we get into Kyle Busch's comments, if you want to talk about energy this weekend, we have to talk about Hurricane Hocevar. Okay. He wasn't just in one race. It wasn't a story just in one race. He was in 2 races. I did check. I was thinking he also raced in the O'Reilly Series, but he did not. He was in the Truck Series race and the Cup Series race. But everybody knows Carson Hocevar has a reputation now. He's aggressive. He's fearless. He's right on the edge. But here's the real question about Carson Hocevar. Is it chaos or is it controlled chaos? He's not out there wrecking for the sake of wrecking. He's racing hard every lap, every restart, every lane. And when you show up in the couple of races that he did this weekend, the way he did at EchoPark, that's not accidental. That's presence. Not sure when you race aggressively, you're going to, when you race as aggressively as Carson Hocevar races, you're going to ruffle some feathers. We know that. Veterans notice, spotters notice, fans definitely notice. But here's what makes it interesting. He keeps putting himself into the conversation because young drivers today don't ease into the sport anymore. They don't wait for their turn. They show up swinging. And Hocevar, he swings hard. So what do you call it? Overdriving or building a reputation as someone who won't back down? Controlled chaos or just chaos? What's your thoughts?
I am more in favor of an aggressive driver. And this goes back to Chastain, and I stood by him when he went through this. And a team owner, talks about it. It's better to try and rein a exciting chaos. Yeah, definitely exciting, all sports. It's easier to try and rein a driver in than it is to push him to go faster or, motivate him. So I think he's on the good side of that. Does he have some lessons to learn? Absolutely. But I know some champion drivers that need to learn some lessons too. If we get to that, we'll talk about that. The one from this weekend, when it initially happened, they're like, oh, Hocevar stuck his nose where it shouldn't have been. When they watch the replays, they start to go, well, there was a hole there. He did take a shot. It kind of closed up, and they weren't as hard on him. Again, should he ever
I've got a video of it. Do you want me to show the video?
Yeah, if you got it. Yeah, let's do.
Okay, let's see here. Share screen. Hard hit.
He definitely provides exciting chaos, yes.
Now, can you see that, or do I need to enlarge it?
Yeah, right about there. That'd be good.
Okay. Let me get it started.
I think this is kind of a matter of, and while you're getting that set and going to play here, One thing that comes into play, Sharon, you mentioned it.
Oh, here it
Trying
is.
to get in that hole,
Right,
Kevin,
yep.
right in front of Noah Gragson. Shot out there really quick.
Yeah.
Noah got in the back of him.
Yeah, and I think Noah was just trying to push
No,
him
that's
right
the
there.
that's
And
the
as
Noah
you can
Kyle
see
Busch
from that
one.
shot, they're just a little misaligned, and the 4 car was down just towards that left rear. And when he went to push him, it just immediately spun him out.
We're going to see him starting to move
Here it
up the
comes again.
racetrack. I think he was
This
trying
is
to get in that
Kyle
hole,
Busch
Kevin,
moving
right in
up.
front
Yeah,
of Noah
that's
Gragson.
Right in front of
Shot out
Noah
there really
Gragson.
quick.
Yeah.
Noah got in the back of him.
Yeah, and I think Noah was just trying to push him right there. And as you can see from that shot, they're just a little misaligned. And the 4 car was down just towards that left rear. And when he went to push him, it just immediately spun him out.
Okay. Oops.
Yeah, that wasn't the Hocevar one. The Hocevar was Christopher Bell was on the outside, went a little high, and there was a gap there. And it closed up really,
I'm
really
trying to
quick.
get this to stop.
Okay. I don't hear it no more, so
Oh, okay. I was hearing it.
that's one of those is a really tough call. And you mentioned reputation. Hocevar has that reputation. So if something happens around him, he's going to get blamed, just like Chastain did. And he's built that through the truck series. I get that. However, like this one, I don't think was as egregious as what fans want to jump on it for. Should he have not taken it? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, that's really a tough call. But I go back to I would rather have a driver trying to make that pass and get the win than not. And now if we want to talk about the Kyle Busch one and that was with Noah Gragson, because that's where the comment of the kids
I'd
these
like
days.
to say something about Carson Hocevar real quick too. Carson Hocevar, I agree with you. I think he does have the Chastain aura around him that no matter what happens, he's going to get blamed. Kyle Busch was able to get up in there, but if you notice, he kind of slides up a little bit. And like the announcers were saying, Noah's trying to give him a push, but they're misaligned when he does the pushing. So there's a little bit of fault on both sides, I think, in this, or not, Noah Gragson. Yeah, that's right. I did get ahead of myself there, didn't I?
Well, and going back, and I know you don't have the footage of that one, as All Sports All Day chimes in here. If you want to go to his comments, when Hocevar made his move, he also had Ross Chastain on his bumper pushing him. That kind of comes into play that I don't think a lot of people looked at because again, they just want to blame Hocevar for causing the problem. Again, and I'm not saying it was Chastain's fault. If you got a car in front of you that's going, that you got to go with the run, and he did. And like I said, there was, what did they say, a half a car length to maybe 3/4, and he tried to fit a whole car in there. But at the time, Christopher Bell was sliding up, so it appeared the hole was going to open. It didn't. Yes. Bell caught the car and brought it back down, which closed the hole. Yes. So I think it really was kind of a racing deal. Was it the smartest move? I'm not going to say it was the smartest move or, should have definitely was going to work, but I can't blame him for taking it either. And like I said, I think part of it was he didn't have a whole lot of choice because Chastain was giving him quite the push at the same time.
Here's that one, Jay, if we want to watch that one. Let me go back to the beginning. Oh, I didn't share it, I guess. Okay, let's.
The bottom.
Yeah.
Let's play that again.
There he go. He went. Oh, didn't wait. Bell gets turned.
Hopefully it shows that second replay.
Hocevar. He shot to the middle as soon as they crossed the start-finish line, Kevin. Did not wait. Tried to pounce on it. Bell walk on the outside a little bit. Bell did move up just a pinch, but it still wasn't a hole in the bottom.
Yeah.
See how Bell moved up? Bell separated quite a bit.
See, you heard the announcers there. They initially were like, yeah, man, Hocevar, that was bad. Oh, wait, maybe there might have worked. Oh, Bell did move up and open the door, you know. So again, I didn't catch any of Bell's direct comments. So I don't know where he falls on it. But there was a gap. Again, was it the biggest gap of clear, gonna drive through, no problems? No, certainly not. Would it have worked? Hosts All Sports All Day say it was not a smart move and never going to work. I disagree with that. Again, if Bell hadn't cut back down, I think they would have went 3 wide and it would have been okay. But that replay wasn't able to show it. There was one more behind it where it showed Chastain's in car and how he was pushing Hocevar. That's
Yes.
where I think you really got to look at that was that entirely Hocevar? No, it wasn't. And I'm not saying it was bad. It just a racing incident. You know, it's a drafting style track, 3 wide, 2.5 wide. You know, it happens. But I think that is one of, as we've seen Chastain change, you know, if you want to use the word mature, kind of dial back a little bit. But that's easier to do than, like I said, of all of a sudden become an aggressive driver when you're not.
Right. I like when he started to make the move, yeah, it looked like it was going to be open. But when the other car started moving in, he needed to back off. And that's what didn't happen. It was too little, too late. And
Right.
the wreck happened. So, but you're right in a lot of respects. And like you said, you've got another driver behind him that's given him a push, Ross Chastain. And we know Ross is an aggressive driver too. So.
And that's where, when I look at it, of seeing that in car from Chastain, had Hocevar not gone to the middle and tried to shoot that gap, but followed Bell up to stay in line with him, I think Chastain would have hooked him in the bumper and turned him into the wall. Again, I can't prove that. It would have had to have played out, but just the way they were aligned, I think if Hocevar moved up, he would have turned into the wall because Chastain was kind of going down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I do agree with you that Chastain became a verb last year or a few years ago.
Right.
I've been Chastained, and now people are being Hocevar'd. So it is the Chastain syndrome that Hocevar is dealing with. But he is an aggressive driver that sometimes makes move. And another driver that's like that, by the way, is Kyle Larson.
Exactly.
Kyle Larson makes moves that are not always the smartest moves. And it happened in this race with SVG at the end of the race. If you listen to our fantasy report on Friday, Taz and I both said, do not pick Kyle Larson for this week. He's a do not pick because he usually wrecks out of these races for making moves like he did. And he took full accountability for that move, but it took him and SVG out of the race.
What I didn't get from Kyle Larson, he did a great job. He said, hey, that was on me. His spotter told him to stay high. He never said why he made that. I mean, he went from up against the top wall all the way to the bottom lane, almost like he thought he had to pit and was going to try and dive to pit road or something. I never heard him say why he made the move. You know, he said, hey, my spotter told me to stay high. I didn't listen. I made my own move. It was my fault. Good on you. But why? I don't, you know, I mean, what did you see? But like, hey, there's a yard sale down there I got to get to. I mean, what?
And that's my one thing with Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson is good at saying, yeah, it was on me. But how many times do you want us to forgive you for it being on you?
Right.
He knows better, I think. He's a veteran enough driver that I think he should know better. But it's that aggressiveness that they have inside of them that causes them to make those moves that sometimes do work. But when they don't work, it takes more than just them out of the race.
And like I said, I'm really, even in that situation, just trying to understand what he was possibly thinking or going to do. had it been like at Daytona, you go down to block that bottom lane when you think they got momentum and get in front of them before they get there. But he didn't even know SVG was down there because he was clear of the one car, and I don't remember who it was, in the second lane. He didn't know that third lane was coming, so it wasn't like he was trying to jump in front of that. Like I said, it was almost like he said, I want to be down on the bottom all by myself, like I got a pit or something. And if that were the answer, at least I would have some understanding then. I mean, he just all of a sudden said, I got to get to the bottom.
Yeah. And he didn't listen to his spotter.
And didn't listen to his spotter.
That's kind of frustrating for the team too, when he does those sort of things. Okay.
Now, I know we listened to or watched the video of the Noah Gragson and Kyle Busch, and Kyle Busch's comments. I got to take issue there and back up there. He already had it up there. All Sports All Day said.
Let me set this up though a little bit.
Okay.
In the Cup Series, Busch was caught up in that incident with Noah Gragson. Was it hard racing? Maybe. Aggressive? Maybe. Aggressive, definitely. But afterward, Busch said something that stuck. The kids these days, that's kids these days. Now, that's not just about one wreck. That sounds like a generational frustration. Is this old school mentality versus new school aggression? Is Busch saying today's drivers don't race with the same respect? Or is this just a veteran who doesn't like being moved out of the groove? Because here's the thing. The younger drivers are fearless. They don't care about reputation. They don't care about seniority. They're racing for their careers. So the questions becomes, is this the start of a generational clash in NASCAR? It's not the first time we've heard that. And we're just getting started. Drop in the comments right now, was Busch right or wrong? Because I know Jay's got a perspective on this, as do I. Was Busch right? Was Busch right? Put down A, if you think it's just a racing deal, just hard competition. B, kids these days have no respect. C, Busch is overrated. Or D, something bigger is brewing in the garage. So let us know what your thoughts are about that. A, B, C, or D.
I need an E category. Busch being overrated is not one of them. I was going to go with all of the above, but no, I do not think Kyle Busch is overrated by any means. Does he have a point of this new kids or next generation? Yes. Do I think this was a case of that? No, I do not. And I also think back of, if Kyle can recall in his memory, there were some veterans saying the same thing about this young Kyle Busch up here being an arrogant little punk. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So this is nothing new by any means. Dale Earnhardt had it when Jeff Gordon came in. All right. So that's where I came in on the scene. So you're always going to have that. Now, as a whole, I think there is some validity to his comments, and we've had a lot of different discussions on this. I go back to 2-3 years ago. It was an article, I don't know if it's written by, but Jeff Bodine is the one that was quoted in it the most. Drivers that did not grow up working on their own car, paying the bills, racing to eat, if you will. Is there that lack of respect for the equipment and cost? I do feel there is some of that. Certain drivers I felt like had it coming out of iRacing. Oh, I crashed, just reset. No, it's not like that. So I do think there is some validity in it. Do I think that situation? No, I'm with All Sports All Day. Like Kyle Busch, I want to see him win again and finish out his career. But that one was on him. And even there again, the broadcasters, when they replayed it, when Kyle went up, lost the car a little bit, you heard him check up. Well, the guy behind you made a move and you got up in front of him, but you didn't stay in the throttle. Now, Kyle's point was, as you see that driver is up there in front of you and loses it a little bit, give him an opportunity to gather it up. You're doing 190 miles an hour and you got a split second. I mean, come on, you know. I understand what his point was. If you see somebody a little squirrely in front of you, you know, don't just run into them and finish them off.
Just full throttle it.
Right. But I don't feel like Noah Gragson did that either. I don't feel like he had time to react. And I don't recall if they had the audio of Gregson's car, if he checked up and tried to stay off of him. But I don't feel like he's like, hey, he's squirrely, I'm going to finish him off.
Well, and here's the other thing. It's not just Noah Gragson. He's got another car within inches behind him.
And there too, you're right. You got to look at the full, maybe Gragson had somebody pushing him. I don't recall on that one.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure there were pretty tight quarters there from when we watched the video. So I'm pretty sure there was another car behind Gragson. So yeah, I agree with you, Jay. I do think that, let's see what All Sports All Day says. Kyle Busch let off the gas for some reason when he got up there too, they showed. Yes, exactly.
He said he lost the nose.
Kyle Busch was able to get into the spot, but he did lose it a little bit, got a little bit squirrely. And when he got squirrely, when Noah Gragson tried to give him a push and line up behind him, they were off kilter. They were not aligned properly for that push. And so that's why it ended up taking a spin, taking something that was a little squirrely and turning it into totally wrecked out. So, but I had to put the blame on both of them. And I agree, Jay, you got seconds that we're talking about here going at high speeds. There's little reaction time. But if you see somebody getting a little bit squirrely behind you, you got to let up a little bit. The problem is, and this is where I side with Noah Gragson, problem is he's got another car directly behind him. When he slows down, you start getting that accordion effect, and it could cause the big one that they talk about. And so he's got to be careful too about how he reacts to that situation within a split second. So it's one of those racing deals in my mind. I don't think anybody is necessarily to blame. Kyle Busch did get in there. He did get a little bit squirrely. They were not aligned up properly to be pushing each other. You know, so if they're not lined up properly, you can't push that guy up to the next. Now they were through the curve going on to the straightaway when it happened. So you never push somebody when you're in that curve, but they were coming off of the curve and onto the straightaway, which is a good time to push somebody, but they weren't lined up properly. And so that push wasn't really well advised there.
Yeah, you mentioned it, Sharon, just thinking back to that little video clip we saw. You got the wall to the right, a car, again, inches behind you going the same speed, and a line, because they were on the high line, you got cars to the inside. So, yeah, where are you going to go and what are you going to do? You check up, you're going to get hit. Like I said, I don't feel like Gragson was like, hey, I'm going to drive through him because he's already squirrely. Could he have checked up a little bit or not tried to actually push him at that point? I'm not a driver, so I'm not going to second guess that. I don't feel like that was a malicious intent on Gragson by any means. But again, with Kyle,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, with Kyle's point of the kids these nowadays, yeah. I do still think there is some validity in that. It may not have directly only been about Gragson. It appeared that way just because it was right after wrecking with him. But I do think there is a little bit of that. And that applies to Hocevar. You know, as much as I say I like Hocevar, you know, he's got a little bit of that mentality.
Yeah, kids today, I do think that there is a little bit of that in the garage. I do think that the older generation now, and it's hard to say this if you've been watching this for a while, but Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano, Kyle Busch, these guys are all veteran drivers. Name some others, Jay. All of a sudden, my mind's...
Well, even Chase Elliott I think Chase having come from a multi-generational racing family I think was a little bit better about it. And to me, I think it does go back to if you grew up working on your own cars. I think that does have a huge impact, from that aspect versus if you're, I hate to say it because I don't get into this normally, but if you're coming in with daddy's money or a sponsor's money and you got the backing, I think that factors in.
Yeah, I agree with you, All Sports All Day. He says, I think he had a point about kids these days. He just didn't have a point with that scenario, and maybe a tad hypocritical, especially seeing the start of his career. I agree, Jay. It has a lot to do with working up. I do think there is a generational divide in the garage with the new generation of drivers that are coming up through the series and the veteran drivers that grew up working on their cars, like what you're talking about. And they have a great deal more respect for their cars versus the guys that are coming up into the series that daddy's kind of paying the bill and they've never worked on a car in their life. And that's one of the things that I do like about some of the drivers in the ARCA series. I love it when I see ARCA series drivers that are involved. Robbie Keneally and some of those drivers, they're at the garage every single day, working with the guys that are working on their cars. So I like when drivers have that kind of background in their pocket. I think it makes them better drivers, more respectful of their equipment and everything else versus daddy who's paying the bill. And I don't care if I wreck the car or not, it's no skin off my nose. So I think there is a rift when it comes to that. So I agree with what you're saying. It might not necessarily apply to that situation that he said it to, but the mere fact that he said it means that there is a divide within the garage. And so All Sports All Day says, I agree, Sharon. I don't think it makes them better. I think it makes them better drivers all around. Absolutely. When they have that experience of working on their cars and understanding how that car works, they're better able to give that feedback to their crew chief so that they know what kind of adjustments they need to make.
Here's the problem, and this is where there's a huge problem with NASCAR and racing and the way it's evolved and the money that's involved. And I'm going to use Kyle Busch because he's the one that said it. He can't even any longer help on the car because it is all about engineering, not necessarily the mechanics of it. So you really don't have that opportunity like you used to. Now, take Ty Majeski, though, in the truck series, talks about him being a fabricator on the truck series with Thor Sport. You can still be semi hands-on and involved if you have the opportunity. Now I got to go back the other side of it, though. As a driver, what do they want you to do? Hey, we got this sponsor. We need you at the tent here. We need you over here. They don't have that. So there's a lot of layers to it in the way the sport has evolved. And I'm one that, and I know several of the drivers had some appearances. We talked about this of if they're sponsored by, and I'm going to use Walmart, having the show car out at Walmart, the driver out there. Cole Custer was at the Joe Custard's, I can't think of the name of the sponsor, frozen yogurt, and was going to be at one of them in the Atlanta area. So again, the driver is being tasked to do these appearances, so they don't have that opportunity. And thank you, All Sports All Day. It's Andy's frozen custard. Thank you. I love having you here. You can look all these up, or them. Whether you know them, if you're that smart, so be it. But
we really appreciate it.
We do. And you can take credit. You can just say you're that smart. I'll buy it. But so, yeah, it is tough. But I do think they need to put a focus on it of them being a little more engaged. Now, some of them do have their own teams if they run them in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Truck Series or even Late Model Series. I think that does at least give them that other side of, hey, this costs money.
Yes, yes. And I'm going to go through a little bit of what I wrote down here with regard to this. Some of this might have changed since I wrote this, but and then I want to get into some of the things that other topics that we had on our list that we didn't get to. You know, one of the things that I think made the EchoPark weekend so interesting, it wasn't just about the wins, it wasn't just the wreck, it was the contrast. On the one side, you've got Kyle Busch, who's breaking records with that 9th victory in the Truck Series in EchoPark Speedway. He reminds everybody that experience still does matter, and I agree with that. The racecraft still matters, that knowing how to close still matters. Think about Sheldon Creed with those 15 runner-ups, and he finally got that victory. And then you have the comment kids these days. And again, it's not necessarily about what happened in this particular incident, but there's an underlying frustration that's building, I think. That's a veteran looking at the garage that's changing. Things are changing in the Cup Series because on the other side of this weekend, you got Sheldon Creed who stepping up and kind of flipping the script, not almost, not close, but actually winning that race. You've got Carson Hocevar racing like he refuses to wait his turn. He's aggressive, he's visible, he's right in the middle of everything. Controlled chaos, maybe, but he's forcing his presence into the conversation. And you've got Shane van Gisbergen, who is a veteran driver, new to NASCAR, but a veteran driver. He's quietly building something on the ovals, not flashy, not loud, just improving, learning, getting more comfortable. That's how long-term threats are made. So when Busch says kids these days, maybe he's right. They don't wait. They don't defer. They don't race with fear. But here's the other truth. They are getting better. And that's what makes this so compelling because the veterans aren't fading quietly. The next generation isn't backing down. And the tension is building between them. That's the story. And if EchoPark is any indication, we're probably just getting started. So you tell me, is it a generational clash or is it great racing that we're seeing happening? Let us know in the comment sections. And we do have a few other news items. One thing that I didn't get to in the Truck Series that I meant to is the Truck Series race. Ben Rhodes was racing for the win on his birthday. It was his birthday. He missed it. Did that fuel strategy from the pit box ruin his chances of getting that birthday win?
You know, I saw where you had put that, and I don't know because I don't have race results up. I think he came back of top 5, maybe.
Yeah, I think second.
Well, I didn't think it was that far, but he was back in contention. So
he did that for a while.
Yeah. So, you know, to me, did it hurt him at the time? Yes. But he had a fast truck and was able to get back up there and mix it up. So I don't think it necessarily took it away from him because he was back in contention. So could it have played out differently if he'd have been able to stay out front and be out front during that final stretch? Don't know. Again, Kyle Busch was in it. Kyle Busch wasn't afraid to throw it to the bottom and make some passes. So you can't really say. I don't think it ruined his day, you know, which it could have. As it turns out, it didn't because he had an awesome truck and handled it well.
All Sports All Day says, I met Trevor Dane back in 2014 at a Walmart. Most I know, but can't lie. Every once in a while, I may look at something up here. Oh, okay. Yeah. He's really, All Sports All Day is really good. When we can kind of get stuck, he helps us out. Good race for Rhodes. What has happened to ThorSport in the past few years? They've fallen off a cliff. Yeah, ThorSport's been struggling. I know that they've been changing makes back and forth, and I think that's part of it. What are they now? Fords? I can't remember.
I would have to look that up if you're right, because they've jumped. I would have said Chevy, but we'll look to All Sports all day. What is Thor Sport? You might be right, Sharon. They might be back on Ford.
I don't know. I agree, Sharon. They can't pick a lane, and that's probably part of it. Yeah, they keep switching the manufacturers, and I wish they wouldn't do that. I wish they'd pick a manufacturer. And
but there again, that goes back to this. I mean, if one's offering and the other one's not, I mean, you got to do. Yeah, it definitely hinders them, no doubt, and I think they know that. But I think they're getting their footing back under them. So hopefully, at least stay with one. I think this is their second year. Okay, they are with Ford. So Sharon, you were right. That was one. Honestly, when you said it, I was like, you got me, because it has been a back and forth thing. But there again, like I said, go where the money is, because you got to have money.
So was it the fuel strategy, though, in this case for Ben Rhodes that lost him the race?
I say I don't think so, because he was back in contention at the end. They talked about that, of how much better his truck handled out front. So had he been able to stay up front and not had to race back through the field, maybe he could have. But I think you were going to have a hard time denying Kyle Busch.
Okay. Some other storylines coming up here in the truck series that I want to make sure we mention. Colin Braun is going to be that number 25 driver for Ram in the truck series at St. Petersburg. So look for that coming up. Also, Ben Mayer will be in St. Petersburg for Nice Motorsports in the number 4 truck. And also, before I forget this, the truck series has had a ratings increase. Do you think it's because of what's happening with Ram? What's causing that ratings increase? We've had a lot of really big names in that series.
And I guess that does kind of tie to Ram with the with this all-star truck and them coming back and obviously generating a lot of publicity with their race for the seat. So could possibly tie to that. I think it's good racing. Throughout last year, we talked about that several times. That feeling maybe the truck race was the best race, if you will, competitive race of the weekend. You got that wide variety, although the other series are kind of getting that. And now we lost Matt Crafton, but you had a range of very veteran truck series drivers to drivers getting their first start or limited starts. That kind of provides that all-out action. I know we went through a stretch where they were saying, hey, it's just a wreck fest. And NASCAR said, hey, we need to get this under control. We don't want that. And I think they did a good job with it, the sport and the drivers.
Yeah, big names, good marketing, cool tracks, and most important, good racing. And it has been better racing. As far as the Cars Tour, I suspect weather's the reason they didn't race this weekend at Coastal Plains this week.
Yeah, I don't know on that. I'm not a big follower. I mean, I see different posts on it, but I'm not a solid follower of it to know that.
Okay.
But weather has been a factor again, unfortunately.
And I agree
they canceled it weeks ago.
They canceled it weeks ago? Okay, yeah, I'm not sure what the reason is then. I'd have to go back in my email box and see if they gave us a reason. Heather Crichton.
That is Chris's wife. Hey, Heather.
That's Chris's wife. Braun hadn't raced NASCAR since 2011. That's interesting.
I was going to jump in there. Yeah, I was going to jump in there if anybody even knows who that is. If I'm not mistaken, he was one of the first drivers from that Gong show that Roush did, because he was a Roush truck driver. I don't remember if he was that Gong show winner, but he was one of the original Roush truck drivers back when Kurt Busch and Carl Edwards were.
Okay. Okay. I just looked it up. You were right, Sharon. And then Heather Crichton says, yuppers.
That would that seems odd that they would have called it for weather that far out, but there again, of being involved with tracks, you try and, especially if it's, forecasted and whatnot, of make a decision so that teams don't, for a touring series like that, if they're coming from different areas, haul into town and then get stuck with, not being able to race.
Yeah,
that's one of those, there's no winning. You call it off and the weather clears up and they're, oh, you could have raced. Well, what do we do?
What do we do? Okay, moving. I keep looking for O'Reilly Auto Parts Series notes here. And I don't see a lot on the O'Reilly, but I do have a couple of Cup Series notes. Zane Smith has some momentum rolling too. He had a 6th place finish in the Cup Series this weekend, and he had a good run, I think, at Daytona as well. Jay, did we lose you?
Yeah, I'm trying to come back. Did I log back in?
Okay, yeah, you're back.
Okay, what was that?
I was talking about Zane Smith had a 6th place top 10 finish, and if I might be mistaken, but I think he had a top 10 in the
Daytona. He was one of 3 drivers. Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace, and Zane Smith, I believe, are the 3 that had top 10s in both races. I did see he was a part of that group.
Yeah, I'd really like to see that momentum from Zane Smith this season. So that was really good. Some upcoming news. Keselowski has said that he's not sure if he's going to race COTA or not. He's got Joey Hand on standby in case he's not able to race at COTA. So keep your eyes on that storyline. That's a developing storyline. A lot of racing back and forth, left and right on the road courses, a little bit more strenuous. He's been okay, but he is not sure about COTA yet. All Sports All Day says, cool to see Zane do good only a few years after the disaster of Spire season. Yes, that is good to see. So I was real happy to see Zane Smith having a good run here. Also, before I get into the big news story, for St. Petersburg, watch for this, Jay. Jimmy Johnson is going to crew chief for Dario Franchitti at St. Petersburg.
Yeah, that one I hadn't seen that, but I saw where you put that up. I hadn't heard that either. That actually isn't a bad. I wouldn't say is a bad. Think about it. I'm sure they had some connections and worked together when Jimmy Johnson was IndyCar racing. To have somebody like Jimmy Johnson, again, does he have crew chief experience? Maybe not, but doggone, I mean, who else would you want in your ear?
Well, remember last year, wasn't it Dale Jr., who is the crew chief for Connor Zilic?
1-0, yep, 1-0, undefeated.
1-0. So now we're seeing Jimmy Johnson step up into the pit box. So I thought that was kind of a cool storyline to follow.
I got one for you because I was going to disagree with your statement of the big news. For some, that's an opinion. Dodge got their new Challenger nose approved for NASCAR at the Cars Tour, and that's what made me think of it when All Sports All Day was talking about that. I don't know if it extends to the ARCA, but they are in the process. It does provide that Dodge can now run in the NASCAR Weekly Series, the Cars Tour. Like I said, I don't know if it goes as far as ARCA. They talked about being ready for the 2027 Daytona. It is still a stretch, but the Ram leadership is saying, hey, if it can be done, we're trying to do it.
Well, there you go.
So that's big news for me.
Minnie Tyrell was racing a Chevy, but he had Ram trucks on his hood.
Right.
So that was kind of an interesting thing.
Right, because they don't have the Dodge brand in ARCA yet. I know there was some big jokes about that of, hey, they're getting their sponsor out there.
Yes. Now, here's the big story. okay, that we might want to spend some time on. JGR has filed a lawsuit against Chris Gabehart, who is now employed by Spire. We've got another lawsuit on our hands, Jay.
Yeah, right. Okay, and this isn't even the one I thought you were using as the big story. This one is big. You're right. You can't argue that. It's ugly. I hate to say it. And unfortunate. It's one of those of, if what JGR is stating, that he used a thumb drive and downloaded some stuff, absolutely is wrong.
Yep.
When you talk about a non-disclosure agreement and intellectual property, somebody that sees something, learns something, you can't take that out of their brain. So from that aspect, I always wonder that, of how you stole intellectual property. Now, if he supposedly, at this point is what JGR is saying, downloaded some stuff onto a thumb drive and took with him, yeah, they got a case.
Yes. Innocent until proven guilty, but damn, that evidence doesn't look good for Gabehart. That evidence doesn't look good for Gabehart. Now, it's interesting that Spire Motorsports came out a day or two later and said that, yes, he's employed at Spire Motorsports, but he is, how did they phrase it? The motorsports official or something to that degree.
That's where I didn't find what his title or role was with Spire Motorsports. So
I guess it does not have to do with the competition, but has to do, I've got it here. If I can flip back, I hit the wrong link. It has to do with more of bringing talent into the series, if I read it correctly.
And now, go ahead.
It says, confirmed, Chris Gabehart will serve as the organization's chief motorsports officer. The role is not NASCAR specific, given that Mac McCall is the organization's Cup Series competition director. Gabehart will serve in the same role at Joe Gibbs Racing. However, he left the company after the 25 season. Instead, the chief motorsports officer role will involve wherever Spire Motorsports has racing presence. Of note, the organization fields 3 full-time teams in the Cup Series, 2 entries in the Craftsman Truck Series, and a sprint car in high-limit racing. So I guess he'll be involved in all 3 of the series. We'll have it presence, whatever that means.
And that's one of the things from what I read of what was supposedly on the hard drive was things such as driver salaries. So that would, if he's a marketing man or, just helping out with the team of, hey, this is what you got to offer somebody over what they did, or how they structure a contract that works for drivers. Yeah, that, man, I mean, I'll go with all sports all day. I'll have to wait and see what gets proven. But, like I said, if you're physically taking things on a hard drive, yeah, that's it. But even so, and I think Larry Mack talked about this a year or so ago with I think that had to do when it was with the IndyCar deal. Just for example, and I'm going to use Chad Knaus. If he's the crew chief at Hendrick Motorsports and he's the one that builds all these notes onto the hard drive, whose are they? I mean, he's the one that was there and is the one that put them in. So are they his? Are they the team's? Are they,
They do belong to Joe Gibbs Racing. He is working for Joe Gibbs Racing as an employee. So anything he does becomes the property of Joe Gibbs Racing.
But like I said, whatever you see or hear and know in your head, you can't take that away. I meant to call and ask my nephew that. And this goes to, my nephew works in natural resources. And he was under a non-disclosure and actually got questioned about that, of a particular procedure. And I'm not real smart. Josh, I love you, but yeah, that doesn't interest me when he was talking about it. But just a process they do in some type of agriculture. And all of a sudden, this new company started doing it, and he got questioned about whether or not he had taken that info from the previous company and his non-disclosure agreement. So it's at all levels in everything in the world. We'll have to see how it plays out.
And you said you had another big one, but before we go to that, split screens for Fox all season, all race long. They're not going to have full screen commercials anymore. I like it.
Oh, wow. They're not going to?
No full screen commercials anymore.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be split screen commercials all season long. The announcement from Fox. Now, will NBC do that? I'm not sure, but Fox will have split screens commercials.
That is one of those of, me personally, I don't truly see the benefit of the split screen. If I'm watching it and they shrink it down, it's small, and if you see the wreck, you can't tell who's who. So again, this is me. I know some fans that were there, they were all about it when they went to this split screen. I just don't see the benefit of it anyway. Okay, so you do, and if that's where they're going and fans are, as a whole, that's what they want, then by all means, that's a great decision. They obviously feel that's what fans want. So, and the technology is there, and that is one thing I will say. Once they found out they could do it, I'm like, why wouldn't you then, if you feel that is a reasonable option? So I'm glad to see they're moving forward with it then. Again, even though I don't see the benefit to it, it actually, like I said, kind of aggravates me because I can see something happening, but I don't know what.
Well, I think with the bigger screens, you get a better view of what's going on the split screen. But
you're right. I mean, I will say that you at least do see, hey, something is happening. I know we're going to come back and they'll update us. So, yeah.
And I'm with All Sports All Day. I never thought I'd see the day. I remember the days we were begging, if IndyCar can do it, why can't we do it? And they finally came up with the split screen, and now to have it for an entire race, I love it.
Now, see, and Heather's got another point. The side-by-side actually means more commercials, though. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, that's true. Good to have you on here, Heather. Yeah,
it's really good to have you here and interacting with us. This is what we want, an interactive show. So we appreciate the interactive.
And we've said you can make your comments as long as you're respectful. If you talk bad about Chris, I won't call you out.
Oh, come on now. Heather would never do that.
She does to his face. I've been in the booth with him before. I know.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate the interaction, and thank you for your comments, both All Sports All Day and Heather Creighton. We really appreciate you guys. But yeah, very true. We might see more commercials with the side by side, but that means more revenue for the.
Well, and they do have to make it up. So by eliminating the full commercial, again, you're getting the compromise. Okay, you're getting the side by side, but you're going to get it more often. So you got to give a little, take a little.
Yep. That's what it boils down to. What was your big story that I didn't catch?
Really? Okay. Are you aware that Toyota is the only manufacturer that Kevin Harvick did not drive for?
Yes.
That's what I thought you were going with the big story. Harvick will be.
Yeah. Keelan Harvick. I thought Keelan Harvick was going to drive for RCR a long time ago. Richard.
No, that's Busch. That's Braxton Busch.
You're right. That's Braxton Busch. Okay. Yep. Keelan Harvick has a long-term agreement with Toyota Racing Development. It was announced earlier today that he will be, and I'm going to see if I can share my screen here. This guy right here, I'm hoping I can share this. I don't know that I can.
Is that one that's blocked?
Well, it's on my it's on my email. It's not letting me share it.
I got you.
So I apologize. Let me try window. Hold on. Maybe I can do it through the window. Share screen. I apologize for the
And also, while she's trying to pull it up, I believe he is now the youngest. They went back to, I think, Kyle Busch and Chase Elliott were 15 when they signed a manufacturer's deal like this, and Keelan is only 13.
Yeah, he's only 13 years old. Nope, I'm not going to be able to share it. So sorry about that. I had a nice picture of Keelan Harvick I wanted to show during this conversation. But wow, they're signing him up at 13 years of age. Keelan Harvick is set with TRD. And, you know, my thing with TRD is, where are these guys going to go?
Well, you beat me to it. Go ahead. Yeah.
Keelan, but they've got a lot of really great drivers, but no place to go. There's no room at the end. That's
a tough call. I mean, I am happy for Keelan Harvick. The talent is there. Again, it's different for Dad. I didn't know that he had never drove for Toyota. I knew he had been Ford and Chevy. So that's kind of interesting. But that is my concern. That's great. And at the Cars Tour and into the ARCA, they got those spots. So that is good. No, Kevin never raced Toyotas.
Nope, never.
But my concern is with that of being a long-term and they groom them, where do you go with them? And that comes right back to Corey Heim. You know, I mean, that was how he came in and he stayed with them. And I hope he gets paid off in the end of waiting it out. But we've seen some other drivers that kind of get pushed to the side and end up then going to another manufacturer. So not that I want to see that, but the reality is I think they need to then, at least at the Cup level, continue to increase their presence. I know they've kind of expanded now with 2311, so they have more Toyota teams. But, yeah, that gets awful narrow at the top.
It does. It gets it kind of like is a funnel. You've got all these drivers, and they're funneling into this very narrow hole as they move up the ladder of NASCAR into the top 3 series. So we'll see what happens. I'm happy for Keelan Harvick. I'm happy for the Harvick family because I think we've got a lot to look forward to with Keelan. He's been a really good race car driver. You've got Gragson, Busch coming up through the ranks. I think they're right around the same age. I think, we're going to watch Harvick's and Busch is racing for a while now. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great for the sport.
It is. And I don't blame Toyota TRD for doing it by any means, because as you say, we've seen that getting that younger and younger and getting them into a program is a good thing. I think some of the other manufacturers lack that development program, such as what TR has done. So they are setting the model there without a doubt. My concern is
Ram might be falling into that too, that following in behind Toyota's footsteps, if you will, with a development program.
And we've seen it in the past. I just don't feel like any other manufacturer really put in what TRD did. And I will give them credit and a shout out for that. They by far have set the bar as far as having a developmental program. But like I said, my concern is how far do you get them? And Keelan's obviously got plenty of time, and we'll see. I know it just said long term. They need that, by all means. And even with Harvick in the position he's in, to have factory and support like that takes a weight off their shoulders.
It sure does. It sure does. So what other stories do you have, or is that it for tonight?
That was all I had as far as big storylines. I think there certainly are some things that are developing. We talked about 2311, where they're at. All Sports All Day, when we talked about front row with Zane Smith. I know I had one of, we got a few minutes. Already seeing what could develop under this chase format now. When I was looking at the point standings, there's some drivers like Denny Hamlin had 2 bad weeks. A win doesn't bring him right back into contention. He's going to have to dig out of that hole. Do I think he can do it? Absolutely. But I don't want to hear it at the end of the season of, oh, my driver didn't get in. He's got 3 wins, but he didn't make it into the top 16 because he was in a hole, after the first 2 races.
Yeah. And I think SVG had a lot to do with a lot of the conversation last year about the point system and the playoff system. So if it happens to your favorite driver this year, we always say this, be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. And my other fear is that in the past chases that we've had some really close ones. The year that Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards was tied. Okay, that was exciting. But we've also had the other end of the spectrum where we knew who the champion was going to be before we got to the championship race. So, it's going to be interesting. So there could be some top names that don't make the chase this year for whatever reason.
And I know that, again, I was kind of keeping an eye on that and I'll just pull up the Cup Series real quick. Right now you have Tyler Reddick at 125. He is already 40 points above Bubba Wallace. Now, again, this is only 2 races in. I get that. And they will reset going into the chase, but it is going to be gapped based on where they are 1st through 16th. Again, they're going to reward that regular season champion. I believe it's going to be a 25-point gap, but I might be wrong. I don't have that directly in front of me. But just looking at it on where some of these drivers are already after these first 2 races, Denny Hamlin is one that stood out. Alex Bowman is in 32nd, Christopher Bell in 31st, Denny Hamlin's in 27th, Austin Cindric 26th. And let me see where they are. They're 90-some points out. You got to look at 16th, which is Shane van Gisbergen at 45. So they're about 19 points behind the cut line right now. Kyle Larson in 21st. I think so. And that's where I said I don't want to hear the crying at the end of the season.
Yeah, because the winning you're in is gone. And now we've got the point system. And we'll see how it plays out. But already a 40-point gap at the top of the field. So we'll see how this plays out. My worst fear is that we're going to know who it is, not just one race before the championship, possibly 3 or 4 races before the championship race.
Right. Yeah, and those 10 races could play out. We could have that Tony Stewart, Carl Edwards. We'll have to see how that 10-race stretch goes. I was just looking at, like I said already, of who even makes the chase. And I get it, 2 races, and obviously for a couple of these drivers have been some rough races. But it used to be that was okay because you knew they were going to get a win and would be back into contention. Yes, the wins count for more points, but if you're talking about consistent week in and week out, to make up that gap of where they're at to 16th. And I look at, like I said, Kyle Larson is in 21st, Kyle Busch 24th, and then Austin Cindric, Denny Hamlin, Alex Bowman, and those are ones that have been regular winners and or championship contenders. But to make up those points, you not just have to be consistent, you really have to be super consistent and better get a couple of those wins to get those extra points to make up that gap.
Yes, and did you see that Patrick Staropoli was the highest finishing rookie in the Xfinity Series race, and Connor Zilisch in the Cup Series race? I think Connor Zilisch might be the only rookie in the Cup Series.
Yeah, I don't know that we have anybody else running full-time as far as rookies do on the Cup side, do we?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think there's a couple in the Xfinity Series, or O'Reilly Series, I'm sorry. But only one in the Cup Series.
Yeah, he's the only one I see.
Yeah, but Pat, there are a couple in the O'Reilly Series. Patrick Staropoli, Luke Fenhaus, LeVar Scott are the top three that I see here.
Yeah,
But
I think that,
Pulley was the top one with a 13th place finish.
yeah, I knew he was just outside the top 10. He didn't quite crack the top 10. But I look forward to not just the rookie season in the trucks and the O'Reilly there, for
Jared
sure.
Camp Hudson is in the house. He
Oh,
says,
who is
Michael Husman's the man.
Where is that one now? I don't see that one. That's Jared. He's been on here before. What's up, Jared? He's the one I went to Winter Jam with a couple weeks ago.
He's on Facebook.
Sweet. So it is transferring over. Good deal. Good deal.
It's transferring over. He's on Facebook. He's in the house. Welcome to the show. We're getting ready to close up, but we're glad you're here. If you haven't seen the first part of the show, we do talk about all the hot topics, including Kyle Busch and kids these days, and the wild weekend at EchoPark Speedway this week.
Wow, Sharon, we missed it. We should have tied the Keelan Harvick thing into Kyle Busch's comments. You mentioned Braxton being about the same age.
Yeah, he is. Jared says, good time at Winter Jam.
It was.
Okay. All right. I think we're ready to wrap this up, Jay, unless you've got something else.
No, like I said, those are just a couple of things and obviously, like I said, that's going to be long-term for the year, watching the points and the chase develop that we certainly will be keeping an eye on and covering as far as hot topics. I just got to say, I appreciate, I think Heather ranked as number 3, or did I drop to number 3 on comments? Oh, I might still be number 1, all sports all day. I better put another comment up just so I get above him.
Oh, come on now.
No, we appreciate it. Yeah. That's right. So that was great. And we got Jared coming in from Facebook, the crossover. We went up a couple more. We're up to 104 subscribers. So we appreciate you, fans.
Hundreds of views over on Facebook. I mean, hundreds.
Good deal.
Looking in over at Facebook with the simulcast stream. Also, Race Chat Live will be on Wednesday night with Chris Crichton, Taz Taylor, and CJ Sports. So they'll be talking about the midweek topics that are in the news. And he sent a little bit of a preview of what he's going to be talking about. Let me see if I can pull that up over here.
I was just going to ask that. I know I saw it when he put it up. Yeah, they definitely got a good show lined up for Wednesday.
Okay, I've got to switch over. Yeah, just to give you a little bit of a preview of a working outline that they have so far for Race Chat Live. Let's see if I can do this. Sorry for the delay here. Yeah, Race Chat Live. You dropped that in our chat room here. They've got all kinds of things they're going to be talking about. They're going to organize the snapshot. The number 1 is their green flag headlines. 23-11, Michael Jordan and Hotlanta. Big finishes. Stat of the day, Tyler Reddick, the only driver to be the 6th driver to ever start the year off with 2 for 2. Sponsor talk. Okay. Under the hood controversy. Chris Gabehart and the lawsuit. The Truck Series race. Shout outs, shout downs, Hocevar, Creed, Busch or Wallace, the weekly poll. And they've got the question, is Michael Jordan the superstar we've been looking for? And the long run, what's coming up next weekend at St. Petersburg and COTA, and Taz's NASCAR weekly team ranking is what you have to look forward to. This Wednesday on Race Chat Live, these guys mix it up and give their comments about. That's great. Congrats to y'all. Thank you, All Sports All Day. You're talking about the simulcast with Facebook?
Yep, and the numbers at the 104, and we had 6 watching.
104 stats, yes. For 104 followers now at Fan for Racing Radio. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. So there's a lot to look forward to on Race Chat Live Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Central Time. And that also will be simulcast between Facebook and the YouTube channel Fan for Racing Fan for Racing Radio on YouTube, as well as 110 Nation on their YouTube channel. So you'll be able to see that in 3 locations. So a lot to look forward to there. Jay and I will be back with the previews for this weekend, and Taz and I will be back with the Fantasy Report on Friday. But before we go, I just want to say, Jay, first of all, any other comments from you, Jay?
Well, I don't want to steal your thunder, but I will say, all this happening, the subscribers going up, and the dual broadcast is thanks to our wonderful producer, and that's Sharon. You've been doing a heck of a job improving this and new things each and every week. Last year being the first year, getting your feet wet with it. You've done a great job, Sharon.
Oh, well, thank you, Jay. It has been a learning curve, so bear with me because I'm still learning, but I'm trying to do the best I can here. But as we close out our night tonight, I want to say, all right, race fans, that's the week of Hot Topics Sound Off. We gave you the headlines. Now give us your take, because in this sport, the conversation doesn't end at the checkered flag. This is Hot Topics Sound Off, where racing isn't just watched, it's debated. We'll see you next week.
Join the debate, please.